I couldn't even get Restream to stream me. It did not even restream the broadcast the way it normally does. And so hopefully we won't have a problem with that today, because I've got the streaming going. I am checking here to see the destinations for the stream. Periscope's on, Facebook's on, YouTube is on. Something's happening. Streaming monitor, we're coming on. Hope so. It's slow. It's whining. It looks like the streaming monitor's trying to stream us. So we'll just hang out here for a minute and see if we can get this thing up and running. I'm going to be talking to CloudHub today about my own channel on CloudHub. So I think that's going to be a really cool thing. And there we go. Look at that. The streaming monitor has us up, going live. So that's a good thing. And maybe there's just going to be quite a delay today. Is that all right with y'all? Seems like it's interesting, you know what, to go through periods of disruption. And I think part of what we're doing here in dealing with fear and trauma is dealing with expectations and sea changes that change the way everything in the world is working right now. Part of the situation about being where we are is to recognize the difference between the crisis of birth and the trauma of destruction. And two things are happening for us in the earth right now. One is that certain things are being deconstructed and taken apart. And that can be very traumatizing, especially if you don't understand what's happening. So if we don't understand and we don't rightly perceive that, let's see, it's sending data. Periscope isn't even like online. That's so weird. It's sending the data and Periscope is not responding. But for those of you who watch on Facebook, I will go ahead and keep talking. And if I need to do a separate Periscope, I'll do that. It's really strange what is happening. So if you're in a position where the old things are being shaken and taken away, what do we know? We know from Hebrews that everything that can be shaken will be shaken, in order that the things that cannot be shaken will remain. So we're in the period of that shaking. Sorry about the light, it's weird. It's very traumatizing to have everything around you shaken. But if you understand that that's a process of deconstruction in order for us to move into reconstruction, right? Then you'll hang in there with that process and not see it completely as trauma. It's like the difference between a controlled demolition of a building because a new one is going up. Then you go, wow, something new is coming. That's where we are. The problem is that a lot of what is being deconstructed is what's in our head and what our expectations are about how society is supposed to look, and what our expectations are about how, saying in the national and personal trauma we are experiencing, is the reality that things we counted on and things we thought were a certain way aren't even that way at all. What if the corruption goes so deep? What if the control and the domination and the propaganda we've lived under between our ears and also externally through our media is so deep and so corrupt that the deconstruction that it's making place for the new thing is an ugly process. You know, it's like when you do a leak of the sewer system under the house. That's gross. Well, that's kind of what's happening. And that can be extremely disruptive if we don't understand that deconstruction is part of the reconstruction process. And that's what we're in. So I want to speak to you about that. And I want to say that also I'm experiencing that in the reality of painting the trauma painting. I'm having to deconstruct things that I thought were kind of good that are not working. And so I'm painting this painting, and I'll show it to you, but I'm not happy with it at all. It's really kicking my butt, really, honestly. This particular painting, which is meant to talk to us about the healing of trauma personally and nationally, is taking me to a place where I'm constantly deconstructing this canvas because of what I don't know how to do and I don't know how to deal with. I am not a fine artist. Let me tell you the stuff I like to do. Let me show you the stuff I like to do. I like to do stuff like this, okay? Bold colors, bright strokes, free forms. I can work my way through a painting like this and figure out how to have it to communicate something good. But if you give me something that requires a lot of detail, a lot of understanding of anatomy, shape, drawing, I get myself in way over my head. And we're in a stage right now where God is requiring a reshaping of us as individuals and as a nation, because he's birthing something. Something is going to be birthed on November 3rd, a move of God, a change. Painting here, which is our trauma painting, is a painting where I'm trying to depict the birthing of something new out of trauma. Well, I hate the baby. The baby is so ugly. This is a painting that I don't know how to do. This is requiring of me a deconstruction of forms that I don't even know how to recreate. And this is what God's doing in there. Like, I had a drawing sort of the shape of the baby. Like, he doesn't have a face anymore. It's so weird. And then I began to put in color and try to begin to give three dimensions. And I realized that the foot was so odd, and the other foot, working on it for hours and hours, and it's worse. It's worse. And this is what's happening in us right now as God is deconstructing things in us that he didn't plant. And he's deconstructing us out of old traumatized personal memories, but also nationally. He didn't plant the propaganda media. He didn't plant the corruption in the justice system. He didn't plant the fear mongering that controls people. He didn't plant this virus. He didn't plant the wickedness right now that is seeking to deprive people of their rights and their responsibilities, their freedom and their hope. He didn't plant any of that. And he's deconstructing it. And it's been traumatizing. And he's wanting to create this new thing, this new life in us, this beautiful baby ready to come forth. But let me tell you, the more I try to paint this beautiful baby, the uglier it gets. I'll have a moment where I think, yeah, that looks like a face. That looks like a nose. Yeah, that'll work. And then I'll mess it up. Something will happen. Or I'll think, but the proportion is wrong. And then that umbilical cord thing I tried to paint, wow, what a disaster. But it just occurred to me that this is the process we're in nationally. God is deconstructing things because we thought we lived in one kind of world. And we thought our restoration would look like a certain kind of thing. But just as Johnny Enlow prophesied, and I'd encourage you to listen to his visit on Sid Roth yesterday, just as Johnny Enlow prophesied, this is the end of the world as we know it. And there is a deconstruction going on. And even in the process of rebuilding and God rebuilding and bringing justice and dealing with corruption and exposing the wickedness of the media, exposing the socialism and the communism, the degree to which all our major institutions, sports, business, think Nike, think NBA, think Major League, all the Major League sports, think Hollywood, think actresses and actors that are famous and revered at Epstein Island. There's a massive list, you can Google it, of people who flew on the Lolita Express to Epstein Island. And it is a list of the who's who of our society and our media, our news media, our government, Hollywood, and beyond, and high tech. Do you think it's going to be pleasant deconstructing what we thought was America? Wow. Baseball and apple pie, and then you find out baseball is owned by is more influenced by communism and socialism than by Americanism. My friends, God is rebuilding something in us, and there's a baby coming. There's new life coming. But the process of him creating that new life in us is still requiring a deconstruction of what we thought we were going to get and how we thought it was going to turn out. And we're finding out how corrupt Big Pharma really is, how virus before it ever came out. We're finding out now about people who are involved with Jeffrey Epstein all over the world, who are in the most influential positions. We're finding out how our justice system was weaponized and our bureaucracies were infiltrated. We're finding out how radical Islamicists infiltrated the White House, and socialists and communists have infiltrated our major institutions. And this is traumatizing, especially as God is rebuilding a baby, a new life in us. We just want it to just be okay and just get better, don't we? We just want it all to just, we're going to get our country back. And it's just going to be the way it was. It's not going to be the way it was. A brand new understanding of how deep and how corrupt and how evil our institutions have become, our leaders have become, our business leaders, our government leaders, our pastors, our priests, our teachers. And as God is the scab of healing, he's building, and then there are things that just aren't what we expected. I'm trying to paint this big, beautiful new baby in here, ready to come forth. Because I believe that's where we are. We're pregnant with the purposes of God. But every time I go to this canvas, I'm humbled by what I don't know, what I can't do, what is turning out ugly to me, the process of healing that looks so ugly to me. Can you relate? Can you relate with that? Can you relate that God is in you, forming Christ in you, changing you? He's birthing something in our nation, but the process is just so uncomfortable and so unpredictable. Stick with it. I've got to stick with this really ugly baby and figure out how to paint and figure out how to cooperate with this image and be humbled by what I don't know and humbled by what I can't control. As God begins to rebuild, to build in us his work and get us ready to give birth to something. He's giving birth to a United States of a miracle in us. Because America has a destiny to fulfill, to bring the gospel to the nations. America has a destiny to fulfill, to bring freedom to other countries by our example, and to bless the earth, ascend to positions of leadership. America has a destiny to have people in business and sports and media and art and in healing arts who are of the highest of integrity and who haven't sold their souls to darkness and money and greed. We have a destiny. We're going to pray that in. I'm going to work with my ugly, unformed baby, the thing God is birthing and creating in me and in America. And I'm going to keep praying and interceding and calling that forth. We have to participate with God and call forth what he wants to bring forth, to say no to the enemy, to say no to injustice and corruption, to say yes to the kingdom of heaven, to say yes to the new thing, to stick in there with our uncomfortable process as the life of God is formed in us and the move of God is birthed in us as Americans. Can you do that? Hang in there. It's an ugly baby right now, but what am I going to do? Abort it? I don't think so. I think I'm going to stay in there with all of its misshapenness and keep learning to hear and learning to paint and learning to see what God is birthing and growing in me and in our country and in you. Okay? So go do something that scares you. Stay at the canvas. Stay in your intercession. Stay believing God is birthing something in the United States. Don't believe the media. Don't believe the darkness. Don't believe the prophets of doom and gloom. There's baby coming. It's growing in you. It's growing in me. Might have a few ugly stages along the way. But we're going to stay as Christ is formed in us, as his work is formed in us. And as we continue to do that, the healing for the trauma of what we've been through is coming, is shaping up. All right?